The San Francisco 49ers have agreed to trade Deebo Samuel, and the offseason of change continues. We'll talk about it all on the Gold Standard Podcast. What is good, everybody? Welcome to another Instant Reaction podcast. The San Francisco 49ers continue to make news, and the news that some have been waiting for has finally happened as we get word from Ian Rappaport and other insiders. Deebo Samuel is going to the Washington Commanders in exchange for a 5th-round pick. Adam Peters making the move for Deebo Samuel. And one wide receiver saga for the Niners appears to be over. Now, obviously, he's got to pass a physical and all that stuff. But Deebo, gone. The player that Kyle Shanahan loves. According to Mike Silver's book, Kyle once told Deebo Samuel, "You're the best football player I've ever been around." Well, guess what? He ain't around anymore. Deebo is going to Washington. Chat, tell me how you feel about it. Want to get your reaction. Hopefully, Levin Black is going to join us. This is obviously a big change. Deebo Samuel was one of the core members of the 49ers locker room, one of the locker room leaders, a team captain for multiple seasons. He was the guy that Kyle Shanahan would depend on, him and Christian McCaffrey, to bail him out of a lot of spots, a lot of places, and he's not going to be there anymore. I mean, look, we all saw the games where Kyle would come up with the Deebo game plan. Sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't work, sometimes Deebo would get hurt and the whole offense would come to a screeching halt. Well, they're going to have to get creative. For everybody that said that they want the offense to evolve next year, guess what? It's going to evolve because Deebo ain't there. He is going to be gone, I'm sure. Wonder how Brandon Ayuk feels that his boy Deebo is the one that gets to play with Jaden Daniels in Washington. But this is happening, apparently. Now, again, it's got, you can't officially trade anybody to the start of the new league year, which is in about 11 days. I believe March 12th is the start of the new league year. But I'm sure they'll do physicals and all of that stuff, and we'll get all that straightened out. Let me just try and grab a topic bar if I could type. Apparently I can't type and talk at the same time. It's very difficult. Usually I do that while Levin's talking, but he's going to hopefully pop in later. Seeing the reaction in the chat. Who is Main X says Deebo hasn't played hard since he got the extension. Big Mig says no way they eat all the money. That's the surprising thing to me, is that they're going to take a $30 million cap hit now if this goes true. Whereas if this goes through, whereas if they had just cut him, they could have designated it post June 1 and spread the cap hit out over multiple years. I don't know. Apparently the 5th round, I'm sorry, but the way the 49ers have handled their wide receivers with Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk has just been terrible. It has been flat out terrible. They could have traded Deebo Samuel before they ever signed him to that big extension. And when his value was at the absolute highest, they would have got a massive haul for Deebo Samuel. They didn't do it. They could have traded Brandon Ayuk before they paid him. Coming off a great year, they could have got a very nice haul for Brandon Ayuk. And they didn't do it. And they paid him. And now we get word that they're open to trading both. And obviously Deebo, has agreed to be traded to the Commanders. The 49ers have butchered this handling of their wide receivers. It's bizarre to me. It is bizarre. They have done a good job of not paying mid-level guys like the Mike McGlincheys of the world and stuff. They've been very good at that and knowing when to let those guys go. But when it comes to their bigger names and their bigger contributors, they have not handled them the same way. And I don't know if it's just a lack of objectivity from Kyle Shanahan or what's going on. But that's terrible. That is terrible. The way that they have handled this. They have not handled it properly, and now they're getting pennies on the dollar for these players. If I had told you that Deebo Samuel was going to get traded for a 5th-round pick, you would have been like, what? If I had told you that in 2021, that he would eventually be gone off the team, I mean, Ed, it is wild. But this is it. This is the world that we are living in. Deebo Samuel gone from the 49ers. I'm going to try and check Twitter for some reaction around the league. I think that most 49ers fans, let's see, Mayoko just here. Let me throw this up on the screen for anyone if you're watching the stream, so I don't just read it to myself. I'm sure you'd appreciate that. Mayoko tweets, source confirms the agreement in place for the Niners to trade Deebo to Washington for a fifth. The deal cannot become official until March 12th, the first day of the new league year. Fifth round pick for Deebo Samuel, for a guy that Kyle Shanahan loves. You know this has to be eating Kyle Shanahan up inside. He loves Deebo Samuel. And fifth round pick. That's it. That's all they get for him. And look, I guess it's better than a third round pick considering how the 49ers handle that. But there we go. Let me see if I can bring up what John Lynch said, because he just talked about this. Here was John Lynch talking about trading Deebo.
Yeah, still not interested, Grant, but along those lines of the financial constraints and some conversations we've had with Deebo, it's something, we've been forthright with that. We're on good terms with Deebo. I think, he's asked for a fresh start, and, I think we're going to honor that. Don't like seeing great players, and he is a great player. He's, I think often one of my favorite draft picks in my time. This guy's just he makes plays, and he makes game-changing plays. And, everything's good, but I think at some point time happens, and he asked for that. We don't always, there's contracts and things, but, it probably makes sense. So we're at least allowing him to look, and we're having conversations. We'll see where that goes.
That was John Lynch on Wednesday. It's now Saturday, and Deebo Samuel is going to the Washington Commanders. And kind of surprising, too, right, that he's trading him to the NFC, to a team, quite honestly, that I think we all expect if the Niners are going to get where they want to go, they're probably going to have to go through Washington to get there. And so I think that tells you that the market for Deebo Samuel was not that robust. And so the Niners said, hey, this is the best offer that we're getting, and we're going to have to trade him to the NFC if we're going to take advantage of that offer. Monkey Boy 12 says, can't say this is a win, but it's an easier loss to take versus just cutting him. Glad we at least got something. Manny says, let's go. Jonathan says, great news. Jeremy's with me, a YouTube channel member. Thank you very much, Jeremy. I just don't get a $30 million cap hit for a fifth round pick. That is the surprising thing to me. I really want to know why the Niners felt compelled to do this. Is the fifth round pick that important? Because that is a chunk. Now, the positive news for doing this, if you're the 49ers, is you pay the entire $30 million cap hit now. You accelerate. I should explain it. So you accelerate all the money that you would have had to pay out Deebo over multiple years, and you put it on this year's cap. So once you get through this year, you swallow it, you take your medicine this year, then you're done with Deebo. He's off the books. He's off the cap. He's done. You can totally move on. And before this move, remember, the 49ers had around $50 million in cap room. So they had the ability to do this if they wanted to take their medicine this year. And obviously they're doing it because this is Deebo Samuel gone. I'm seeing Ian Rappaport talking about this from the combine. Let me see if I can bring this up, and we'll hear what Mr. Rappaport, who's had quite the eventful week in Indianapolis himself, has to say.
A major trade just seconds ago. Sources say San Francisco 49ers star receiver Deebo Samuel has been traded to the Washington Commanders in exchange for a fifth-round draft pick. A major move for Washington. Of course, we know they have been trying to add weapons around Jaden Daniels, and they're in that window now where they got a quarterback on a cheap deal. They can take on some money, and of course, they do hear more than $20 million in salary from Deebo Samuel. And obviously, Adam Peters, the general manager for Washington, knows Deebo well, had him in San Francisco, believe he is a big-time weapon for Cliff Kingsbury, for Jaden Daniels. Deebo Samuel, who did have permission to seek a trade, wanted a new home, he gets it and lands in Washington.
So there you go. That's Ian Rappaport from the combine. And I'll say this, the Deebo thing had to end. It just had to end, right? With the 49ers, things had run their course, and I don't even care if Deebo Samuel ends up good with Washington. What I know is he wasn't good anymore in San Francisco. Maybe Cliff Kingsbury can come up with some creative ways to use him, and that's fine. Good for you, Washington. But it had to end in San Francisco. It was just too much of, frankly, Deebo not producing enough to justify the contract for whatever reason you want to put in that. If you want to blame Brock, if you want to blame Kyle, whatever, it just wasn't working anymore. It wasn't 2021 anymore. And we're going to enter this new era here. And speaking of new things, Levin Black is here. What's up, Levin? What's your instant reaction to Deebo Samuel getting traded to the Commanders?
My instant reaction is it's wrong to go this far with it, but yeah, my first thought was ding dong, the jerk is gone. I have no love lost for Deebo Samuel. From his half-assing it on plays where he wasn't going to get the ball, to his delusion of not taking ownership when he failed this past season, to the way he trolled fans on social media to get what he wanted and then called fans dumb for having the reactions they did, because he would put something up there that everybody goes, oh, this means this, it's obvious that it means he's talking about this, something football related. And then after he gets the reaction that he wants, he would come back and say, oh, no, it wasn't about that. You all are dumb. Stop doing that. I was so sick of him.
It's crazy how a guy that has some really great moments in a 49ers uniform, some incredible moments, some big plays for this franchise, and things have soured so much when you consider the history that he has here. But I agree with you. I think it absolutely had to change. Are you surprised that they are taking a $30 million cap hit for what I'm looking at, I believe, is pick 148? I think the Commanders had the 9th pick in the 5th round, which I believe is 148.
I am a bit surprised. I expected him to be released just because it was cheaper to do a post June 1st. I think it was, I just read, I think it was Bill Barnwell going through, or it might have been Benjamin Solak. It was on ESPN, going through like 5 big names and their potential trades and then what they think will actually happen. And they went through Deebo and they talked about how hard it is to trade him because his value isn't there compared to what the 49ers can save by doing a post-June 1st cut, and that they could save a ton of money by doing that. So it made sense for them to release him. That's what I've been expecting. I'm kind of surprised. I kind of feel like the Niners are doing it to save face. Well, we didn't just release him and give away a good player. I think they're a little, it's a weird spot. I think they do think Deebo is still a difference maker. So they don't really want to get rid of him, but they feel their hands are forced. Yet the feedback that they must have gotten over the last couple of weeks is, no, he's not that valuable. That's why you only got a 5th round pick.
Unbelievable. Like I said, if you had told me in 2021 that the Niners would trade this guy and get just a 5th round pick, I don't think anybody would have believed it. Let's look at some of the reactions in the chat. Aaron Griffin says, huge move to reset the leadership of this team. I talked about that before you hopped on, about how this was one of the 49er guys, one of the core guys, a captain of the team that is gone. I think it signals the transition to 49ers 2.0, I think this is the Brock Purdy, Diamador Lenore 49ers. That's the people that are going to be leading this team the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Well, there's one more step that needs to happen in order to truly break up and have that full change. Because yes, Deebo was a big leader. He was a big emotional leader of this team. But what this move does currently, unless something else changes and another move or two happen, is the Cabo clique becomes even more important and powerful in that locker room. I think you have to get rid of somebody that's in that Cabo clique. Hello, Juice. So that it's clear, no, it's not just Deebo. This wasn't something that was specific to the Deebo situation where we didn't want to get rid of him, but he forced our hand because he said he was done and all that. It's, no, we need a change on this team.
And I think that's good. It's good that they recognized it and they're acting on it. The Washington Commanders just tweeted out a picture of Deebo from the Friday movie franchise. So there you go. That if you're, this is a real thing that's happening now. It's the teams are tweeting about it. This is not just reports online. Brisbee Life says Jed really didn't want to pay that bonus. We know that Jed York is tired of just paying out cash, not cap spending, cash spending. And that was the difference. Listen to Kawakami on the podcast.
It's not cap. It's the cash they've spent out. It's the money, the bonuses they've paid out in order to make the cap hits lower, but it extends it out throughout the rest of the contract. And I think there is growing sense, or it's already happened, that ownership is displeased with the amount of money it's paid and not won a Super Bowl.
And so maybe that's the answer right there. Jed doesn't care about the cap hit. He cares about the cash. And we know that Deebo in 21 days was due a $15 million option bonus. That is not going to be paid by Jed York. That is going to be paid by the Washington Commanders.
It is very possible that Jed York pulled the string, used his ownership power and said, he will be traded. I don't care to who. Whatever your top offer is by the 1st of March, you must trade him. Like, thinking about it, like 1st of March might have been a deadline for Jed, that it was by the end of the 1st of March, he will be traded to whatever the top offer is. I do not care. I will not pay that bonus. And yes, they would, for clarity, they would have to pay that bonus in a post June 1st cut. It's cash that Jed would have to give up, but the team would save crazy amounts on the cash or on the cap. But it is a large amount of cash that would have come from Jed York. So that might have been a deal breaker. And I'll be honest, I don't necessarily disagree with that. I know owners make money hands over fist, but you're talking about, hey, we're going to give this guy, $12, $13 million to not be on the team. No, we'll trade him, right? We'll trade him. Yes, we'll hurt our cap a little bit. We got plenty of cap space. I'm not paying $13 million for somebody to not be on the team.
The 49ers got more in trade compensation for Trey Lance than they got for Deebo Samuel. Just let that sink in. I know there are mitigating circumstances. That is a true statement. 4 starts, Trey Lance got a 4th-round pick. Deebo Samuel got a 5th-round pick. And as Nick Wagner says, the Niners are going to eat a little more than $31 million in dead salary cap this year. Of course, some of that was already accounted for, so the Niners had been preparing to just move on from the moment Samuel trade became a real possibility. And I also said before you hopped on too, Levin, the good part of this from a cap perspective is the Niners have the ability to take the cap hit this year, and then they're done paying Deebo Samuel.
That's true.
So, you swallow your medicine this year, but then you're free and clear.
Yeah, because doing a post-June 1st cut, what that does is it allows you to spread out the cap hit, that dead cap, over 2 years. So it's not that they would have less dead cap hit when it's all said and done. Right. It's that they would be able to minimize its effect in a single year. But they still would pay the $31 million in dead cap. It would just be 15.5 done over in 2 different seasons. So that also might have played a role that they wanted to be done so that when Purdy gets more expensive, they're getting guys off the books. Obviously, they did a post-June 1st cut with Eric Armstead. This is the last year of his, the second year of his dead cap hit, so to speak, of the post-June 1st. So it might have been they just want to enter next year free and clear of a lot of those big ones, especially like if they do a new Kittle deal that pushes his void years further down the line because they'll be redoing that deal, things like that.
And I agree with Chew Dog on YouTube, who says restructuring Deebo was such a bad move. Like, what?
I called it out when it happened because I was pissed because I'd already looked at it and it was they could save money by trading him this offseason. And by doing what they did, it cost them, I think it's about if memory serves, it was about a $10 million difference that he would have had still a large dead cap hit, but it would have been smaller than what his salary cap would have been hit from keeping him. So it would have represented a savings by getting rid of him.
This is the strange thing. It just seems like whatever plan the 49ers have seems to change, like unexpectedly. When they signed Deebo to that deal, it was a 3-year deal, which was an indication to me that they knew that this was not a player that was going to age well. This was not a player that was going to be a long-term part of their future, but they wanted to get another deal done so they could have him for a couple more years, and then they would move on from him. It seemed like they recognized that, which I think was the correct assumption to make, Levin. And then all of a sudden, boop, they restructure. And you're like, wait, you just completely undid the smart move that you did when you signed the deal. It never made sense to me. And now they're swallowing $31 million to get rid of him for a 5th round pick.
Yeah, it'd be nice if the media asks that question. Why did you restructure him? What changed between then to now when you pull the trigger on trading him? Because the restructure made it clear you plan to keep him, and make them answer that question. But I do want to say, in terms of recognizing, how quick do Commander fans turn on Deebo? Because I think they're obviously going to be over the moon because most fans are somewhat casual. So they know the name and they think they're getting the superstar for just a 5th round pick with a medium-sized cap hit. But he hasn't had a 1,000-yard season but once in his career. Like, he's had less than 1,000 yards 3 years in a row. When he starts taking plays off again and he goes there and he's not the focal point, you know what I mean? He's not getting these, you will have 10 targets this game type of game plan around him. He's going to, I think, cop an attitude. I think he's going to go full diva mode where he just starts trying. I think he's going to flame out with the Commanders.
Well, it's hard to say. It's possible that he's extremely motivated by this and he's fired up and ready to go. And we've seen when he has the proper motivation and he keeps the weight down, he can be a very, very impactful player. But who knows if that's going to last? Who knows if he's going to stay healthy to even be on the field long enough to be a productive player for the Commanders? But like I said, I don't care what he does with Washington. He had to be gone. I care about the 49ers. All right. I care about what happens in San Francisco. He had to go for a variety of reasons, for the production standpoint, for the chattering off the field, this, that, and the other thing. And honestly, Levin, I still, he's one of the biggest uncrowned champions guys, right? One of the biggest guys of, we didn't win the Super Bowl, but we're still the best team.
He walks around like he's a guy that's already destined for the Hall of Fame, rather than a guy that is a one-year wonder in the league.
I just wanted that mentality off of this team. I needed it to go because there was too many of those guys in the locker room that were the uncrowned champions, as Vish Kumaran once put it. That you need to get back. They need to be hungry. The leaders of this team need to be the hungry players. Diamador Lenore, Brock Purdy, those type of players. Those have to be the leaders of this next charge, this next generation, and players that can be counted on year after year to produce and produce at a high level. And they still, by the way, have George Kittle, who is one of those guys, who is one of those hungry guys. So I think this is ultimately a good move from a football standpoint and a good move from a locker room standpoint. I really do.
Who would have thunk Jake Moody outlasts Deebo Samuel?
Hyman on Twitch says Tabor Pepper won. Shout out to the.
I mean, that we don't know the behind the scenes of that. Did that fracture something in terms of Deebo's leadership? Did some of the team look at him and go, screw you, you're the one dropping the ball out here, and then you want to go after the kicker when you're the one dropping the ball? Like, that is the type of thing that, like, a locker room will turn on you quick. And maybe that's why, because he knew he was gone. He said that in his after the season interview with Kyle that he was like, I'm out of here, I will not be back. So what changed? You know what I mean? It is possible that locker room got sick of him.
I mean, not only that, then you compound that with when the Niners are playing the Rams and it's like, hey, you talked all that crap and we're playing the Rams and they throw you the ball and you're open over the middle of the field and you drop the football. Man, Deebo Samuel was getting booed at home last year. Like, that's a thing that happened. So you're right. The tide turned on Deebo from a fan perspective, and I don't know how it turned on him in the locker room. And that's a question that no 49ers player is going to ever talk about publicly, so we'll never know the answer to it.
We might get some insights because there might be some guys who say things about him that aren't exactly flattering, about like, oh, what's it like without Deebo here? And they're going to say, oh, I'm not worried about that. We're fine. The guys that are, you know what I mean? If Kittle's asked about it and he doesn't go, yeah, Deebo was great. It's unfortunate. It's the nature of the NFL. It's a business, where he's talking about how good Deebo was. And then it's unfortunate. If he says, oh, no, we're fine, we got young players, we'll be good, that's, I think, an indication where you read between the lines that, yeah, he didn't care for Deebo.
That's possible. Adam Schefter tweets, Washington is taking on the remainder of Deebo Samuel's contract and paying his full $17.55 million salary for 2025. CPG Entertainment is not happy with us, says player hater. Deebo was everything on the field. Why slam him? Praise him for service, bro. Your speculation sucks. And then he swore, he said a word that I'm not going to say because I don't like to say these things on the podcast.
It's not speculation that the guy has 1,000-yard receiving season. It's not speculation that he got paid. He half-asses it on run plays. He takes plays off when he knows he's not part of the progression scheme. And he hasn't had a 1,000-yard season since getting paid 3 years ago. That's not speculation. Those are straight facts. It's not speculation that the guy was dropping the ball left and right this season when the players needed everybody that was healthy to step up because there were so many injuries. The 49ers needed him to step up and be the 2021 Deebo when Brandon Ayuk got hurt. Instead, he stepped down and played like crap.
I mean, people look at it as slamming the guy. I'm just saying what the guy did. Like, that is the reality of the situation. You might think it's mean, but it's true. It's true. He had some incredible moments for this team. Incredible. To me, my favorite play of the Deebo Samuel 49ers era is the one against the Cowboys in the playoffs where they get the ball back and he looks at Kyle Shanahan and he says, give me the ball. And Kyle gives him the ball and he stuffs it in the end zone, juking out like 3 Cowboys defenders on the play. When he was right, man, and in shape and motivated, he was a force on the field, an absolute force. In Philadelphia, when they go into Philly after losing the NFC Championship game the year before, and they go into Philly and he took over that game. He catches that ball over the middle, bounces off a tackler, turns on the jet boosters and takes it to the house for a touchdown. And you're like, oh my God, incredible moments for sure. I'll never forget those plays. Hell, in Chicago, when in 2021, when the season was hanging on by a thread and Jimmy Garoppolo was about to get benched for Trey Lance, it was like a 3rd and 18 or 3rd and 15. And Kyle dials up the screen pass to Deebo Samuel, and he takes it almost 85 yards for a touchdown. I think it got down to the 1-yard line, turned the whole season around. Those are incredible plays, and they live forever. But so do the other plays. So do the dropped passes. So do him not being able to get open at all in the Super Bowl in 2023. Those things live too. You got to tell the full story with Deebo Samuel. Both of those sides are the same player.
The guy it's like trying to win with a lottery ticket. Yeah, every once in a while he's going to have a play that only he can make. I will say this, Deebo Samuel is a Hall of Fame talent that if he had a better work ethic and mindset, he could have been a Hall of Fame player. But he has amazing highlights, but it's everything in between those highlights. That's the rub for me. It's, yeah, he has one amazing play, but that one amazing play comes at the cost of force feeding him in games and literally bogging down the offense because they want to run Deebo screen, Deebo slant when Deebo's just not on that game. That's my rub. It's yes, he had amazing highlights. He was as good as anybody having highlights, but it's almost like the amazing dunk player in the NBA who shoots 40%. Yeah, you have highlights, but you're not that good in between them.
I would love to see what Commanders fans are saying about that. I mean, it's a 5th round pick, right? So like it's worth it.
They got to be over the moon because the name and the reputation, I think, on the national stage is that he's still a superstar.
And I think like if it doesn't work out, you gave up a 5th round pick. Like
exactly.
You might as well do it. You're trying to get weapons for Jaden Daniels in Washington. You were in the NFC Championship game last year. I get it from their perspective. Antonio, YouTube channel member, thanks for the super chat, says Deebo's scrimmage yard rankings the past 3 seasons. 2022, 32nd. 2023, 18th. 2024, 43rd.
And that's scrimmage yards. You take rushing out of that, it gets worse.
Anthony Dean Jr. says the 1,000-yard season doesn't matter. It's the game-changing play that he makes. Sometimes, but like he makes a lot of other plays or doesn't, I should say. The plays he doesn't make change games also. Like
he wins you a game, and then for 3 games he doesn't show. And then he wins you a game, and then for 3 games he doesn't show. That's not how you win a Super Bowl. This is not baseball, right? Baseball is as long as you win 2 out of 3, you're good. No, football, you have to go win a bunch of games in a row to win a Super Bowl. You can't have an off day.
Tom Phelan says it was sick of his podcast. I was not having to watch that thing anymore.
I want to see how he is on that, because I wouldn't be surprised if he comes out and just starts fucking naming names. Or sorry, I literally walked in the door from work and came downstairs, so there's no filter at work. So I got to rein it in, but I would not be surprised if he starts like not necessarily naming names, but like saying things that aren't flattering about players and saying, "Oh, I hated that place," or Shanahan's not as good as people think, or and that turns the tide where some of the players here go, all right, you want to play that game? Well, now we're going to start talking about you.
If there was anybody that was gonna potentially spill secrets or tell us where the bodies are buried or any of that, it could be Deebo Samuel. That next episode of his podcast, whenever it comes out, could be very, very interesting. He may start throwing some stuff around. You never know. But that will probably be one last episode that I have to listen to.
What do you think Ayuk has told Jaden Daniels?
I don't know. I mean,
how do you think Ayuk takes this news? That is the team he wanted to go to last year.
Right. He's probably like, damn, I can't believe you got there before I did. David Lombardi tweets, in the Deebo Samuel trade, the Niners save and the Commanders acquire the $1.17 million base salary, the $15.4 million option bonus, $750,000 total in per game roster bonus, $200,000 workout bonus, $17.5 million of total savings for San Francisco. And that, again, that's what Jed York is upset about. All the cash that he was paying out. So that's part of the reason why this trade was done now. Saves $17.5 million. He doesn't care about the $30 million cap hit because he's an owner. He cares about the cash that he is spending.
Yeah, and for the Commanders, it's a 5th round pick to take a home run chance. You know what I mean? If Deebo gets motivated and Deebo shows up and has a season like 2021, I mean, Terry McLaurin, I would say his best comp in the NFL is Brandon Ayuk. I feel like they have a very similar receiving core now to what the 49ers have had the last couple of years. If it's a motivated Deebo where he can suddenly start breaking tackles again and not having the drops, even if it's not the 1,400 yard receiving, but just that he's the threat and he opens up things to where teams can't spy anymore on Jaden Daniels. You know what I mean? That's an underrated thing. That's one of the things that the Niners couldn't really take advantage of. Having a mobile threat of a quarterback and having somebody like Terry McLaurin, where you need the safety over the top, so you can't drop that safety down. And at the same time, you have Deebo Samuel, where you got to defend against the threat of the screen. So you got to be crashing on whatever side he's on. That opens up the middle for running lanes for the quarterback. You know what I mean? Like, that's an underrated aspect, that there's going to be easier paths for Jaden Daniels to scramble, and he was already amazing at it. But for the Commanders, the only potential downside is, we spent a 5th round pick and $17.5 million of cap space on something that didn't work out, and 1 year later we're free and clear, don't have to worry about it.
Roadhog 228 on YouTube, thanks for the super chat, says people bought the number 19 jersey, then the number 1, and now he's gone. Jerseys are an incredibly risky investment with this 49ers team. Tim Kawakami just tweeted out, it'll be a case by case, as it always should be. Nobody has issued a no more big deals command that I know of, since we're talking about Jed York and the money he does or doesn't want to pay. Tim writes, they just want to be more careful about that kind of money. Maybe that means practically they won't do them this cycle, but there's not been an order on this. I don't know that there has to be an explicit order on this, Levin. I think Jed York could have just say, hey, I'm really upset about having to pay out all this cash, and that is kind of the order without the order. That's just me speculating. I don't know.
Yeah, look, I get it in like single circumstances like the Deebo situation. He doesn't want to give out that $15.4 million roster bonus for somebody that's not going to be here. I completely side with Jed if he said, I'm not paying that roster bonus. You are accepting whatever trade offer you get.
Mm-hmm.
But in the bigger picture of things, I don't give a flying F about owners and how much they have to spend because they're making money hands over fist. And by giving out those signing bonuses this year, guess what? That means you pay less cash the following year. You know what I mean? Because you're taking money that would be paid out over the course of the contract and paying it up front. And like somebody like George Kittle, who's been here a long time, it's not like he's gotten any extra money. Them paying him the restructures where he gets a big signing bonus again is taking salary that he was going to earn that season anyways,
Right,
and putting it to a bonus so they can kick the can down the road. At the end of the year, when you do the final year accounting for the 49ers, they spent the same exact amount of money that they would have on those restructures. So
right.
to me, it falls on deaf ears if an owner is complaining about the amount of cash they're spending overall. But like I said, individual case, yes, I don't want to give somebody $15.4 million of cash as a post-June 1st cut where they won't even be on the roster. As long as the player sticks around and keeps contributing, yeah, you pay them cash. But if they're not sticking around, I'm not giving them a huge cash bonus to leave.
Here's Jed York. We have a statement from Jed York when he heard about the $31 million cap hit.
I don't give a
That's pretty much Jed's opinion. Mike Rotonda says, I really thought we would get better than a fifth, if I'm being honest. I didn't, considering his production and the cap room. That's why I didn't think he was going to get moved, because they have to take this cap hit. But Jed does not care about that. Clearly, it's way more important to Jed to save that $17.5 million in bonus money, and he did.
Yeah. I'm seeing a Myles Garrett comment. I'll say this. If Jed York is sick of handing out big amounts of money and they have Brock Purdy to pay this offseason already, that to me would be a big neon sign. Don't expect a big blockbuster where they got to dish out a huge new contract.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they're not, if Jed York is truly saying, I'm not giving out huge amounts of money, like that needs to be reeled in, then Myles Garrett's not even a topic of conversation for the 49ers front office, because they're going to have to give out a big amount of money to Brock Purdy. They're not going to then turn around. I mean, you're talking about Myles Garrett will probably get something like a $30-40 million signing bonus, because he's going to get $35 million per year. So that's like the starting range of a signing bonus for Myles Garrett is 1 year's salary. It might even go over $50 million in a signing bonus for somebody like Myles Garrett, because this is a situation where a team is trading for him. They lose a lot of the negotiating power when you're in that. That's why somebody like Deshaun Watson was able to name his price and get a contract that nobody else has been able to get since, even the MVPs of the league.
Tim Kawakami writes, could this blow up on the 49ers? Sure. Deebo is a true playmaker and remained one of Shanahan's favorite players through the season. He'll be highly motivated. 49ers need a wide receiver.
No, they don't.
But Deebo should have been motivated last year, and it was a clunker. 49ers were moving on. He knew that. I think they absolutely need a wide receiver.
Deebo was moving on. Deebo said he told Kyle Shanahan, like Kyle Shanahan was talking about plans for next year, and he said, I'm not coming back. Trade me now.
Yeah, but maybe he knew the Niners were going to ask him to take a big salary reduction. He didn't want to do that, so he said,
or not guarantee him being focal point anymore.
That too. It could be all of it. I think they both knew that it was over, quite frankly. But I don't
think Shanahan knew. I think the front office might have known. I don't think Shanahan knew, because I think he gets fixated and he sees Deebo as the Swiss Army knife, the toy that allows them to do some things that are unique for the offense. And that's why he continued to force feed him when he wasn't that guy anymore. As I said, like getting rid of Deebo, for me, the biggest benefit is Kyle Shanahan loses his crutch and has to stop trying to force feed somebody that 2 times out of 3 is going to suck that game, because the defense decides they're going to take away those screen passes.
Brian Pumper says it was reported that Jonathan Allen was originally in the deal. What I'm seeing on Twitter is that he was part of the discussions, but ultimately they decided to do it for the 5th round pick, and the Commanders taking the entire contract with them. So he was not ultimately in the deal. I guess there were also reports before that Jonathan Allen was going to be released by Washington. So it makes sense that he would be in the discussions. I'm not convinced that they give out a contract to Purdy. this offseason, Levin. After John Lynch said himself there are no guarantees, Tim Kawakami said, I don't think the 49ers are taking an extreme hard line with Purdy. You can't mess around with QB1. I think the Niners will make what they consider a fair offer soon, but, he writes in all caps, but if Purdy's camp comes in far higher or the Niners don't feel any progress is being made, ... who knows?
Here's the thing. Brock Purdy will be paid. The 49ers might decide at some point, we're just not going to pay him this offseason. Purdy should not step on a practice field again until he is paid. With the way his elbow has been, no. He is the example in NFL history of a player who should not step on the field again until he is paid, because he was the last pick in the draft, which means he's been literally the lowest paid player in the NFL the last couple seasons. He's never gotten a payday, and he has all the leverage, because guess what? If he's not there week one, the 49ers are screwed. You can't win games without quarterback one. There is no team in the NFL that has a backup that they feel comfortable playing. Now, some backups I'm sure would suddenly emerge like Purdy did, where, oh, wow, this guy's actually good. But no team's comfortable and wants to play with their backup quarterback, especially in week one, and start off the season that way. So Purdy has all the leverage. When it gets to training camp, if he hasn't been paid yet, Purdy won't show up. And he absolutely shouldn't show up. And the 49ers will be forced to pay him. There is no situation where Purdy is not paid.
If you missed what John Lynch said on Wednesday, here it is, talking about Brock Purdy.
Started negotiations. We're talking. I won't go into negotiations like always is our stance. Want Brock to be our quarterback as long as we're here and beyond, and we'll leave it at that. I think the final thing, there's no guarantees that we get something done, but my experience has been when both sides are motivated, there's ample opportunity to do so, and we've been able to do that. So
the fact that he said that, I'll say it again, the fact that he said that and Kawakami said what I just threw up on the screen about how the Niners...
let's go back to that tweet, because there's one part we did not address that is very interesting to me.
So there's the tweet. He said, I think the 49ers will make what they consider a fair offer, but if Purdy's camp comes in far higher or the Niners don't feel any progress is being made, who knows? Now think about this. Niners beat writers Levin have been saying, oh, they're paying Brock Purdy. They're paying Brock Purdy. Now all of a sudden Tim Kawakami is saying, who knows? There is a non-zero chance that they blow up this whole thing, Levin. I think that is legitimately, there's a chance of that happening.
You didn't read the most important word. He said, I think the 49ers will make what they consider a fair offer soon. That implies they have not even done that yet, which is their MO. But for him to even say that, to me, he would say, I do think the 49ers will make what they consider a fair offer. I don't think he would put the word soon in there unless he knows they haven't. Or at least he's heard from the Purdy camp that they haven't. So that tells me that the 49ers haven't made a fair offer yet. You know what I mean? Like, he's not going to put the word soon in there. TK is a very calculated person. He's not putting the word soon in there unless he knows there's not been a fair offer made yet.
And look, this could be a situation where if the Niners are willing to blow, maybe the Niners look at it like this. He's like, hey, I don't want to be paying big money. It's a quarterback. I'll do it, but only at X number. This is where I'm willing to go with a quarterback. And if they make that offer to Brock and Brock says, bleep you, that's a terrible offer, then maybe the Niners say, all right, well, we're not going to pay him. If he'll play on this contract, great. If not, we'll sign Sam Darnold or we'll get somebody else and maybe we'll trade Brock.
Oh God, I hadn't even thought about the Sam Darnold possibility.
Yeah, they love Sam Darnold. Maybe they say, you know what? Okay, Brock, we're not paying you. We're going to trade you. We'll sign Sam Darnold and we'll revamp this thing and we'll go into a little bit of a rebuilding era type of thing. I think there is a definite chance of that happening this offseason. I'm saying it now. Everybody says, oh, you exaggerate, you're panicking, you're freaking out. I'm telling you, people are talking the way they're talking for a reason.
I'll say this. I think there is, I know that Atlanta has stated that they want to keep Kirk around as a backup. I think there's a 0% chance that he ends up with the 49ers because I don't think Kirk will have a starting offer come his way. I'm not convinced the Falcons are going to keep him. I think the Falcons are probably trying to trade him. And if he gets released, I don't think there's a team coming offering him a starter spot. So he's going to be looking for the most advantageous backup spot. And I do think the 49ers would be near the top of that list. And for the 49ers, they can swoop in, sign him, and now they suddenly do gain a little bit of leverage with Brock. That, look, we gave you our best offer. You can show up and play, and if you have a great season, then you'll get the money that you're wanting next offseason. If you don't want to show up, we're comfortable playing Kirk. We think we can win with him.
The Kirk Cousins rumors just won't go.
I'm just saying, like, I think they could do that with Rodgers too. Like, I would have a hard time watching the 49ers with Rodgers on the team, to be honest. I really do not like that person. But I do think it's advantageous for the 49ers to get moving. Offer him the fair offer. Offer him whatever the last thing that you're willing to go to is, and say, accept this by X date, by start of free agency, say, or we are going to kick the tires on veteran starters.
Right. We're not waiting on your decision. Con JKJ, YouTube channel member, thanks for the super chat, says 49ers are dangerously close to being a bad team for the next 4 or 5 years if they don't play things right in the next couple of months. I agree with that, Con. And look, like, let's put the pieces together, right? Matt Stafford agrees to go back to the Rams. That was Aaron Rodgers' like primary destination. Now we're seeing reports, oh, the Giants are going to shift their focus to Aaron Rodgers. If I'm Aaron Rodgers, it's like, would I rather play for the bum-ass Giants with a head coach and a GM that are likely getting fired, or do I want to go play with Kyle Shanahan and let's remember, Rodgers was a Niners fan growing up. I know he got mad at them because they didn't draft him and all that, but maybe he's like, you know what? I end my career with my hometown team, the team that I love, playing for an offensive coach. And again, I'm not saying I want this because I don't like Aaron Rodgers. I would be hard to root for him. I agree with you. But from Rodgers' perspective, I'm sure he's looking at this like, hey, great. He's probably whispering to Brock Purdy, Brock, you deserve to get $60 million a year. Texting him. Don't let them lowball you, Brock. I can see Aaron Rodgers doing a little maneuvering.
Nah, Aaron Rodgers right now can't be doing the maneuvering because he's sitting in a completely blacked out room for the last month. No, it will be interesting to see what happens with Rodgers because Rodgers is not somebody I see accepting a backup role. He is somebody that would rather, I think, not sign with a team and wait for a starter to get hurt than to sign on a top backup as like a top backup for a starter that's kind of iffy.
It's really interesting. I wonder if the 49ers are like, hey, maybe we trade the Falcons a 5th round pick for Kirk Cousins and see if we
not with that contract. That's the problem. Kirk has to become a free agent.
This is the question. Between Darnold, Rodgers, Kirk, maybe, do the 49ers look at it and say, like, would we be that much worse with those guys versus Brock Purdy? And if they think no, then they're not going to go back and forth with Brock. They're going to say, take it or leave it, basically.
It could be. I don't think this is the case. I think Purdy will get signed. I'm less concerned with that than I was with Ayuk, less concerned with that than I was with Trent Williams, with Deebo, things like that. But I wonder if they are slow playing this, waiting on free agency to see, one, does Kirk become available? Two, if one of those players that you just mentioned, Darnold, Rodgers, Kirk, hit free agency and don't find the market that they were hoping for, and now there's a bargain out there. Because they can always say, look, we're going to wait. And if free agency breaks our way to where one of these quarterbacks is out there willing to take an incentive-laden backup deal, then let's go get him and we gain leverage. If those guys all find what they're looking for and they leave and they get signed, now we'll go pay Brock what he wants.
Yeah, that could be that too. Valerie says, I don't think Brock's holding out for top of the market money, and both sides will be motivated to get it done. In my opinion, if the 49ers make a fair offer soon, it gets done soon. It all comes down to what Brock wants to do and how he wants to play this. It's possible that there's a world where Brock says, you know what? This is a life-changing money. This is more money than I ever thought I would make playing in the NFL when I was picked last. Maybe he just takes it. to me, I don't think he views himself that way. I don't personally. I think he views himself as, hey, I deserve top of the market money because I think I'm a top of the market player. And I totally understand that. Like, he's always had confidence in himself, but it is possible that he takes the fair offer. You know what's not possible, though, Levin? For the 49ers to have a normal freaking offseason. It's impossible.
This is normal. This is normal.
Where is the quiet offseason? It's unreal. Today I woke up to them trying to trade Brandon Ayuk. It's like, what? Trade Brandon Ayuk? You just signed this guy to a huge deal, and he tore every CL in his knee. ACL, MCL, PCL, all the CLs were torn in Brandon Ayuk's knee, and you're going to trade him now? What?
You know, that's signals to me.
What?
That other teams, at least some of them, look at the 49ers as, well, they should be rebuilding. Maybe they are. Let's see if they'll trade Ayuk. Because they're trading Deebo. That's known. So are they looking at it going, yeah, the Niners are in need of a reset. Let's see if they're willing to trade somebody like Ayuk after the injury, and that they're actually looking at, no, we're going to win in 2, maybe 3 years instead of win now.
I asked Vish, I think it was on Monday of this week, how he thought the rest of the league viewed the 49ers. Did they view them as a team that just hit a speed bump and will be back among the NFC elite? Or did they view them as a team that gave it a hell of a run, had a core for a half a decade, and now are on the downside of that and need to rebuild, basically? And he said he thinks that they were on the downside. He thinks that's how the league sees them. And maybe with this trade of Deebo, you're right, Levin.
I'll give you my analogy on that. I think the league views the 49ers as that old, has had a loss or two, heavyweight champion who may have one last fight in them. You know what I mean? Like, we got to be safe with this guy because he's got, in one punch, he can knock us the F out. You know what I mean? But at the same time, he's not in his prime. You know what I mean? It's like the Mike Tyson of the late 90s. Like, got to be careful with this guy, but he's also beatable. You know what I mean? He's older. He's not what he once was, but he still has that ability to rear back and knock me out in one go. The Niners still have a lot of star power, right? They still have Kyle Shanahan. I think the rest of the league is still, they're not looking at him as, yeah, this is a team we're going to win against. It's, we can beat them, but we need to be careful.
Right. If we're not careful, we'll get beat. But if we handle our business, they're not going to stop us. Tim Kawakami just tweeted, I'll repeat that I believe the 49ers will be checking into the trade market for starting defensive linemen this offseason. I guess they just did, actually referring to Jonathan Allen, who apparently was in the Deebo talks at one point. Tim says a few potential targets have indicated that the 49ers are viewed as a solid destination. Tim talked about that on his podcast too. I have it here somewhere. Let me see if I can find it.
Well, I'll say while you look for that,
I got it.
As a defensive lineman, it is enticing because you get Nick Bosa next to you.
Right. And you get Robert Saleh, who I think is a key factor in all of that. Here was Tim talking about the Niners and defensive line on the 49ers Plus Minus podcast.
I have heard there are multiple defensive linemen that may hit the market. One of them named Bosa. Oops, did I tip that hand? Who would like, if they have a choice, would like to end up with the 49ers. That's one of the people. I'm not going to go through the whole list of people because I haven't heard it firsthand. That one I know. But I have heard this. And so if this is in the air that some of these guys would like to end up with the 49ers, it does make sense. Then the 49ers kind of have to think about it, right? They have to think, are they going to get somebody better at 11 than some of these guys? I think they got to think about it. Now, the money comes into play, obviously, and the draft capital, and you want to get younger, and these guys are all about 30, right? Max Crosby is the one who's 27, the same age as Bosa. I would give up a lot for Max Crosby. I would pay him a lot. Again, I'm not saying this is happening. I'm saying I'm not sure who they're taking at 11.
Maybe the Niners package 11. They got an extra 5th round pick now. And maybe they go to the Raiders and say, give us Max Crosby.
I would trade the 11th pick for Max Crosby. I don't know that I would add significant to it. Max Crosby has a long injury history. I don't know that I would. I think the only one that I would be willing to trade the 11th plus for is Myles Garrett. And the asking price for Myles Garrett is likely so high that I'm okay not getting him. It's kind of one of those things that, yeah, if they trade 3 first-round picks and they get Myles Garrett, I'm going to be excited. but I'm also going to be like, that's a lot. So I'm not necessarily wanting to go meet that asking price. Max Crosby, I would give an 11th for. If you're throwing in a late round pick, fifth or later, I truly don't care about. Yeah, okay, throwing a 5th round pick. Those don't mean anything to me. It's nice to have them, but they don't mean anything to me. I don't really care if they get added on. You know what I mean? Like I don't pay attention to that when it's, oh, they traded the 11th pick and a 5th. I don't care about the 5th. That goes right out of my mind. So if they added a 5th to it, I'd be willing to do it. But that's like the absolute, not to make a pun, the max I would trade for him.
I see what you did there.
I was actually just going to say the max, and then I realized, wait, no, that's his name.
Hey, Niners have done well with their 5th round picks. Diamondor Lenore was a 5th round pick. George Kittle was a 5th round pick. Dre Greenlaw was a 5th round pick. Maybe that's the sweet spot, Levin. Who knows? If you're watching on the stream, Diana Rossini just confirmed a lot of what we talked about, that the Commanders and Niners discussed Jonathan Allen in the Deebo Samuel deal. Ultimately, Allen was not included. Basically, Allen, would have made enough or so much money that it would have negated the Deebo savings. So it's like, why would they include the Jonathan Allen in the deal? So I think that's ultimately why it didn't get done. Remember, this is about Jed wanting to save money, and he's going to now that Deebo is gone. John Radzinski, thank you very much for the super chat, says not rebuilding. They need money for this Purdy deal. Not complicated. Need to get younger, have 11 picks, need a few hits like the 24 class. Thanks, guys. I just want to say, John, I know John. He's a dedicated 49ers fan. I actually went to college with John, so thank you very much, J-Rad. Appreciate that. I don't know. They don't need cap room for the deal, but maybe Jed needed the cash for the deal. The Purdy deal, I mean.
Yeah, it's possible. It's hard to say. Like, it's a lot more complicated, and I'm sure these owners probably don't have like crazy. It's not so simple because it's tied up in a company, right? So it's not as simple as, for most of them, I should say. Some of them, like I think Jerry Jones, yes, he could just be like, "Yep, I got $100 million in the bank. I'll give $10 million to this player to get it done."
Right.
But somebody like Jed York, it's tied up in the company, so it's not so simple. And I guarantee you, there are conversations about the tax implications and things like that for the company with giving up big money like that. You can say that shouldn't be the case, and I would probably agree with you. But that's the reality of what it is. A lot of these teams are owned by companies technically, and that makes accounting come into it.
If you're watching on the stream, you could see a Photoshop of Deebo Samuel in a Commander's jersey. It looks a little weird, not going to lie. Kenny on YouTube makes a good point. Jed shelling out $200 million for a stadium refresh for the Super Bowl, and he has his soccer thing growing. The Niners are acquiring a Scottish soccer team. They got a lot going on. They're trying to put up 10% of the team for sale to trying to get, to pay for the stadium renovations and God knows what else. There's a lot.
Do you think Tom Brady's going, dang, once again, I missed out on the 49ers?
Hey, it's too bad he's an owner now. Otherwise, they could have tried to put in another call. Hey, Brock.
Well, you know what I mean? Like he could have bought the 10% of the Niners instead of the Raiders.
Well, yeah, I guess. That would have been fascinating, actually.
Yeah.
But once again, we miss out on Tom Brady. Weird seeing Deebo Samuel in a Commander's jersey, though, I have to say. Not that I'm upset about it, but,
Brought a smile to my face.
So now the 49ers receivers, 11, are Brandon Ayuk with no CLs in his knee, Juan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, and Jacob Cowing. That's your 49ers wide receiving core right now. They definitely are going to draft one. They've drafted a receiver every year except 2021, and they're probably going to sign a vet in free agency as well.
Yeah, I don't think they need a big name. We've talked about that. There are some wide receivers that I think could probably be had for, $2 to $4 million, like just above vet minimum, that I would be fine with. Look, you have a solid top three. Now, Ayuk is a bit of a question mark because of the knee, but we did hear John Lynch gave a somewhat positive review of how things are progressing. So I'm not sitting here saying they need a Devontae Adams or saying that they need to go out and spend $10 million on like a borderline starting caliber wide receiver. They don't need to. They can sign a, not a vet minimum, You know, it's not going to be what they've been signing. You can't go get Chris Conley type. You need a little bit better than that, but not much.
I have to give credit where credit is due, since we're talking about wide receivers and this whole thing. Grant Cohn was the first person I saw that tweeted out that there were people in the 49ers organization upset with all the big contracts that they had given out and all the money that they have paid. You know, Kawakami wrote about it recently. Grant talked about it a while ago. In fact, he and I did a show together talking about that. So he had this before anybody, and I do think it's fair to give credit where credit is due.
Yeah, I mean, Grant does have sources.
People, I think, dismiss a lot of what he says because they don't like the messenger, but he was dead on this one, and we have seen it unfold, and Deebo is now gone. The 49ers wide receiving core has a lot of questions to answer, a lot of questions, and apparently John Lynch told Matt Barrows or Tim Kawakami, I can't remember, one of them in the scrum after getting off the podium at the combine, that they really expect and hope that Jacob Cowing takes a huge step this year and he's going to be like their slot guy. So he's going to have to be.
If he's the slot guy, then who's number 4? Because you got Jennings, you got Ayuk, and you got Pearsall. You know what I mean? Like, if Cowing steps forward, you can draft a rookie and be just fine at wide receiver. You know,
Jalen Hurd.
Yeah.
No?
You got. If Cowing steps forward, you got 4 solid wide receivers. You don't need anything else. Like, I just.
But that's the point. It's if Cowing steps forward, if Pearsall.
Right. That's why I am in favor of going and getting. You know, I would say spend up to $5 million on it. Wide receiver in the vet market.
I agree with Heineman on Twitch, who says just give Kittle more targets. Yes.
Yeah.
Use Kittle as your wide receiver 1. Give him wide receiver 1 targets. I would be all for this. 1,000,000,000%.
You could give more targets to Juice.
To see why you even got a joke about that. I don't really understand that you guys saying that. By the way, Batman29 says, are you and Grant friends again? I was never not friends with Grant. Like, I don't know how many times I have to say it. Like, if I had beef with Grant, I wouldn't be praising him for having the story first. Like, nobody even remembers that Grant had this. Like, there's no beef there. Again, for the 1,000th time.
Where's the beef? It's not there.
It's not there. Exactly. Ron Douglas says the Niners need 2 wide receivers because of Ayuk's ACL and Deebo at Washington, 1 free agent and a draft pick. I think that Kyle will sign a veteran free agent wide receiver because he loves the vets, Levin. He's not just going to, I don't think, if he left it up to just Jennings, Pearsall, and Cowing, that would be a major change for Kyle.
Yeah, I think that they'll sign a vet, and I will guess that they draft a wide receiver in the 3rd. I do think they'll go a little bit earlier because I think they'll want somebody that they think is capable of contributing this year if there are injuries. And if you draft somebody in the 6th or 7th or not, you're looking more at like, well, this guy could develop into something. We hope.
That would be surprising, but I would love to see it because I feel like the 49ers are one of the only teams that don't ask for their draft picks to contribute right away, whereas everybody else is like, if you're good and you can play, you're going to play. So I know that the Niners draft picks played a ton of snaps this year, way more from them than previous regimes because of all the injuries. It was sort of by default because they were running out of healthy bodies at the end of the year. But maybe that caused Kyle to say, like, you know what? These guys maybe were better than I thought, and maybe we should have given them a shot earlier.
You know what team needs a wide receiver if rumors are true?
What's that?
Seattle.
Well, they're talking
Lockett's a free agent, and DK Metcalf, there were rumors that he was about to be going to Green Bay here just this morning, I saw. So if DK is really getting traded, which I do think that they should sell high because the guy is imploding, I guess would be the best way to put it. So sell him while he still has some value. What are you doing there? Because to me, if you lose Lockett and you lose DK Metcalf, you have Smith and Najigba, but that's not enough. So at that point, I would be looking at rebuild. Geno Smith, 2025 49ers quarterback.
oh God, don't even go back. I told Peter Bukowski, who covers the Packers for Locked On, I was like, dude, you don't want DK Metcalf. Like, that is not the blockbuster that you think it is.
Especially, I'll say this. I think Green Bay, playing in Green Bay, is a unique thing. I think because it's small town market, it's much more like college. I don't think they would put up with the diva mentality nearly as much as other markets would. They don't care for the look at me type. You know what I mean? It's just, I think it has to do with the kind of blue collar, small town feel that Green Bay has. I think it's different up there. Whereas New York, they celebrate those players, right? Markets are different. I do not think DK Metcalf is a good match for the Green Bay market.
Yeah, that's their problem. John Wallace, watching on YouTube, says, so all we got was a fifth in this deal, and that is that, correct? And the Commanders are taking on the entirety of the contract. So
we also got the fact that Deebo Samuel's not on this team anymore.
right. We got that vibe, right, is not there. There is going to be a tone setting and a leadership void now in the 49ers locker room, and it's going to have to be filled by somebody else. And I think the candidates are Brock Purdy, number one, obviously your quarterback first and foremost, if he's there, and Deommodore Lenoir. Those are the two guys, the guys that Kyle asked to speak to the team when they were trying to right the ship last season.
Yeah, I think definitely Kittle is the leader, and I think Purdy needs to step up some, but I think there still needs to be somebody else there. I think there's a third void because Trent Williams, he kind of went MIA last year. Yes, he got hurt, but he was also like not necessarily down on the field. You know what I mean? Like you didn't see him around the team. It's like he just disappeared. I think there needs, I don't know who it would be, honestly. I don't know if Lenoir steps up. Bosa's not that guy.
Nope.
I don't think Fred Warner is that guy. He would have by now. I think he does lead to a certain extent, but I don't think he's the full locker room leader type. You know what I mean? It's like, I will get my guys in order, but I'm not dealing with the offense type. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I would agree.
I don't know. I don't know who it is.
And, last word on this, and I guess it's true, as Mike Florio points out, in theory, either team could rescind this trade. It's not official until March 12th when the new league year begins. I find it unlikely, but you never know. Stranger things have happened. I think we do put that in perspective. Hyman says Saleh is the leader they need. I mean, he will be a voice, yes, but there is leadership that has to come from players. God bless you, Levin. Thank you for hitting the mute button.
Yeah, that came on sudden. I barely got to it.
I had to, I wanted to call you out. You hit the mute button, and I was like, nah, I could let this go, but I'm totally going to blow up a spot.
Yeah, I barely got to that. I actually hit the mute button while my eyes were already closed.
Luis Fernando Aguilar Alonso says Jake Moody, team captain. Oh, God. Apparently he's going to be on the team, which is a whole other discussion. But ultimately, this is a day that I'm not that sad about, quite frankly. Deebo Samuel gone from the 49ers. We'll have plenty more on this. I'm sure we'll be talking about it, because of the 5th round pick, and we'll get reactions from players and stuff. If this is your first time checking out us out here at the Gold Standard, please give us a like, give us a subscribe. We're live every single weekday. We do news updates that come out every single weekday morning with everything you need to know about the team. Please give us a chance. I promise you'll like what you see and what you hear. We're available everywhere you get your podcasts as well. Please give us a chance if this is your first time. We're live after all breaking news, clearly, as you can see. But please like and subscribe. It would go a long way for helping me put food on the table for the family. So do appreciate that.
Ditto.
That's your last. You want the last word on the show to be ditto?
Yeah. That's a great word.
You had that whole time when I was doing the spiel.
You covered it all because you're so great at your job.
Shut up. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.